Let me ask you something, and don't answer it quickly. When was the last time power gave itself up? Not changed hands, not collapsed temporarily, not been replaced by a new elite wearing a different uniform, but genuinely loosened its grip. History is filled with revolutions. Empires rise, empires fall, kings are overthrown, dictators are executed, systems rot and reset. But here's the question that should make you uneasy. What if, for the first time in human history, power no longer needs force? What if it no longer needs soldiers, prisons, or fear? What if power becomes invisible, automated, behavioural, and permanent? That's not the future. That's what we're quietly building right now. Through AI, through digital identity, through behaviour scoring, through total ambient monitoring. And tonight we're going to ask the question most people instinctively avoid. Who actually benefits from AI, and what do they gain control over? Let's destroy the first illusion. AI is not primarily being built to liberate humanity, give everyone more free time, create equality, and elevate consciousness. Those are secondary narratives, and useful ones. AI is being built because it provides three forms of leverage that have never existed at this scale: prediction, automation, and behavioural influence. The primary beneficiaries are not abstract humanity. They are governments, megacorporations, financial systems, military and intelligence agencies. Why? Because AI doesn't just process information, it anticipates behaviour. And once behaviour is predictable, power doesn't need violence, it doesn't need persuasion, it doesn't even need laws in the traditional sense. You nudge, you score, you restrict access, and people correct themselves. This is where everything converges. Digital ID is marketed as convenience, security, fraud prevention, streamlined services. And to be fair, those benefits could be seen as real. But digital ID does something far more profound. It centralises identity. When your money, your travel, your healthcare, your employment, your online presence, your access to services are all tied to a single digital identity, then access becomes conditional. And conditional access is power in its purest form. No arrest required, no trial required, no explanation required, just denial. And look, this isn't theory. China already has this at scale. The social credit system tracks financial behaviour, online speech, associations, travel patterns, rule compliance. If you have a low score, you can't book certain flights, use high-speed trains, access specific jobs, maintain full internet privileges. Defenders say, well, good, it encourages good behaviour. And that's where thinking often stops. Because the problem is not behavioural correction, the problem is a much deeper one. Who defines good? Every authoritarian system in history begins with a "it's for safety, it's for order, it's for the greater good." And they're usually sincere. The issue isn't that rules exist, the issue is that rules change, values shift, leaders are replaced. What was moral becomes immoral. What was illegal becomes celebrated. What was dangerous becomes essential. We burned witches in the past. We defended slavery. We jailed heretics. Every generation believes it is enlightened. Every generation later realises it was blind. Now imagine a system where dissent lowers your score, questioning authority restricts your access, non-compliance is algorithmically punished, no gulags, no executions, no visible tyranny, just quiet exclusion. Historically, control systems failed because information was leaked, surveillance was incomplete, enforcement was human, descendants organised quietly. AI removes all of that. AI offers 24/7 surveillance, pattern recognition across billions, predictive dissent detection, automated enforcement. This isn't a police state, it's a self-policing society, much like the panopticon we talked about previously. You don't rebel because rebellion costs too much. So far we've talked about governments, but here's the uncomfortable truth most people miss. The most immediate control will not come from the state, it will come from corporations. Not because they are evil, but because incentives are ruthless. AI allows companies to do something no economic system has ever enabled at this scale: detach profit from people. For centuries, power had a constraint. If you wanted wealth, production, innovation, you needed human labour. Workers had leverage because without them, nothing moved. AI breaks that equation. AI doesn't strike. AI doesn't unionize. AI doesn't demand meaning. AI doesn't get tired. As AI replaces clerical work, creative work, analytical work, customer service, logistics, decision management, corporations don't just reduce costs, they reduce dependency on the population. And dependency is the foundation of bargaining power. If people are no longer economically necessary, their leverage disappears. Historically, if conditions became intolerable, people could strike, withhold labour, organise economically. But how do you strike when you're replaced by code? How do you negotiate when your value is optional? Now imagine this world. Jobs are scarce. AI productivity is high. Corporations are lean and autonomous. Human workers are supplementary. Suddenly, income itself becomes conditional. And when income is conditional, obedience quietly enters the equation. This is where AI, digital ID, and economic power merge. If your income depends on platforms, your platform depends on compliance. Your compliance is scored, your score determines opportunity. Then control doesn't need ideology, it runs on necessity. People don't need to be threatened, they just need to be dependent. At this point, someone always says, that's why we'll have a universal basic income. Maybe, but ask the deeper question. What are the conditions? Unconditional? Behaviour linked? Score adjusted? Compliance sensitive? If your livelihood comes from a system, and that system can be revoked, then survival itself becomes programmable. You don't need tyranny, you need terms and conditions. Large tech corporations already control speech platforms, control economic access, control information flow, control attention, control digital identity. They are not elected, they are not transparent, they are not accountable in democratic terms. AI accelerates this. When corporations decide who is visible, decide who is employable, decide who is monetizable, they don't just influence society, they govern it without calling it governance. No one needs to tell you how to behave. You learn quickly. What opinions limit employability? What ideas reduce visibility? What associations harm opportunity? You self-edit, not because you believe differently, but because survival demands it. That's not oppression, that's optimization. And this is the most dangerous question. Throughout history, new thinkers emerged, new philosophies disrupted power, new leaders challenged systems. But what if their bank account is frozen at birth? Their speech is suppressed algorithmically. Their influence is throttled digitally. Their score never allows a reach. AI doesn't just stop bad actors, it stops unknown actors. And unknown actors are where revolutions come from. If access is permission-based and permission is centrally controlled, then evolution itself slows. People imagine surveillance as cameras. That's outdated. AI surveillance is language analysis, behaviour tracking, network association, emotional sentiment detection. You don't need to say the wrong thing. You only need to associate with the wrong people, ask the wrong questions, search the wrong ideas, hesitate in the wrong moment. The system doesn't punish you, it adjusts your environment. That's far more effective. For most of human history, seeing was believing. Video was proof, audio was evidence. AI is ending this. Deep fakes means that anyone can be made to say anything. Any crime can be fabricated. Any confession can be forged. Any event can be denied. At first, deepfakes will be used to deceive. Eventually, they'll be used to dismiss truth entirely. Caught on video? Well, it's AI. Real atrocity? Well, it's fabricated. And then truth collapses. Once nothing can be trusted, society demands verification systems, trusted authorities, centralised truth. And who provides those? Governments, platforms, institutions, AI systems themselves. Truth becomes permission-based, not because of malice, but because chaos demands order. And order always concentrates power. So notice a language shift as well, because we stop saying free speech, and we start saying safe speech, responsible speech, harm reduction. These sound reasonable until you ask, safe for whom? Every witch trial was justified as safety. The witches are dangerous. The heretics are dangerous. The people lighting the fires believed they were righteous. This is where the conversation becomes uncomfortable. History doesn't condemn evil people. It condemns ordinary people who were certain. So consider witches burned in Europe and Salem, slavery legal and moral for centuries, asbestos workers exposed and poisoned for decades, lobotomies, forced sterilisation, once celebrated as medicine, all endorsed by experts, institutions, governments and communities. And the common feature is that everyone believed they were right. They weren't coerced, they weren't cynics, they were acting under accepted norms. And because dissent was socially costly or impossible, they never questioned their assumptions. Progress has always depended on the wrong, unpopular or ridiculed thinkers. If expressing novel or dangerous ideas risks income, reputation, access or survival, people stop exploring ideas altogether. Curiosity dies, nuance disappears, courage atrophies. Now imagine AI mediating knowledge. When it filters what you see online, what topics trend, which truths get amplified, you are no longer seeing what isn't approved. You don't know what you're missing. And history shows when people cannot question, they cannot prevent disaster. Invisible limits are the deadliest. When you only ever see curated perspectives, you believe reality is complete. You stop thinking outside permitted frameworks. You internalize the boundaries of the system. Blindness isn't stupidity. It's lack of permission to think differently.